Welcome back to the explanation of the new model, a proposed government intervention in terms of the South African Economic Recovery Programme. This is part 4 and it's about transformation. And this video shows how this model extends far beyond the project construction itself into the community, to create a platform for ongoing economic empowerment long after the project has finished. In the construction and development sectors currently, there are no operational models that have shown to be effective in achieving economic transformation. Ownership remains largely as it always has been. So without that structural change in the current systems, President Ramaphosa's decisive break with the past statement will continue to underdeliver. An accelerated effective transformation will largely remain an unfulfilled promise. This new model as an intervention is not only a new idea at stage 1, the planning level and the development of a project, it's also a significant change at stage 2 in the general economic upliftment in the marketplace in the construction sector. The property cooperative is a means whereby introduction of transformational change of mindset is accelerated within this sector through the community. And part 4 explains more about the property cooperatives and shows how they can be a prime mover in economic transformation from the bottom upwards. And let us recap on the relationships here between the main entity co-op and the property co-op and what happens. So the big blue dot at the top shows the main project entity, the one that started the whole thing, sponsored by the government largely. When that's complete, government funding is paid back and that retained asset is transferred to the property co-op, and the property co-op then continues working in its own right as an owner and developer, using the labor force that has been mentored from the main project. So the green dots, they show the spawned micro projects coming from the property cooperative. The big difference here is those projects are owned by the property co-op, which is owned by its members. So what happens there? The spawned micro projects, they need labor, they need working on, they need selling, just the same as the main project did, but in a much smaller capacity, working throughout the local community on self-determined projects. So this will give construction income to the EMEs working within the property co-op. It will give, in addition to the income, the workforce income, it will give profits from the sale of the upgraded property. And it will also, in the long term, give an increasing value of the shares as the portfolio owned by the property co-op grows and grows. So a property co-op would issue 10,000 shares. The initial shareholding of the original members would depend on their value participation in the originating main project. So the property co-op has 10,000 shares available for the members and for marketing in general. And those shares are initially, 1,000 of those shares is going to be allocated to the workforce teams that came from the main project. And it will be dispersed in relationship to the amount of time that each of those co-ops worked on the main project. And evaluation by time is important because it by any other method doesn't seem to work out well, because the range of skills involved on those projects is wide-ranging from low paid to high paid. So doing it by income value is not right, but time is important because it's the same for everyone. One day in a life is one day in a life for everyone. So those first 1,000 shares in the property co-op will be allocated to the workforce that came from the main project in proportion to the amount of time they spent on there. And it will start with the lowest one. So the cooperative that spent the least amount of time on the main project will receive the basic level of 1 share. And then all of the others will be prorated depending on the amount of time they spent in the main project. So that's a fair allocation of proportion. And then you've got the fixed team within the co-op. These are the members of the project team, the mentoring team, training team, sales team, etc. Though they also would receive a minimum of 1 share. And they would also be limited to the maximum for each team not to exceed the number of shares given to the highest workforce co-op. So this is a little calculation that has to be done. It's not complicated. Also important, the original property owner must receive the same number of shares as a member of the professional team. So now we've got 10,000 shares in the property co-op, 1,000 allocated pro rata to the people that worked on the main co-op who are now members and owners of the property cooperative. So what happens to the balance of the shares? So now there's 9,000 shares, and those shares are for sale to the members of the co-op. So only members of the co-op can be shareholders, and this increases their portfolio and asset value within the co-op, no matter how big the co-op grows. So the membership base now may be increased by the co-op members themselves actively marketing to the public who may wish to invest time working with the co-op for their own financial rewards. So this is an income generating activity now that is not to do with construction. It's a broader economic spread within the community. There's some limits here. The maximum number of shares that may be purchased by any person is limited to 3. The reason being we don't want investors coming in, buying large number of shares and sitting back letting the co-op members do work for them as an investor. It's not about that at all. Additional shares by the members may in fact be earned by co-op members who actively do marketing of the co-op out in the public. Then commissions that they would normally receive for that can be converted into shares. So there's really no limit to the number of shares that can be owned or acquired by members, but how they acquire them is not by direct purchase, it's by earning them. Income from the sale of the shares to the members must be used to increase the retained capital that's used for the purchase of properties for micro projects. So the money that's coming from the shares is used to buy new properties, generate a micro project so that the members of the co-op can work on it, so that it can be sold, so it can make profit, so that the process can continue on and on and on in a linear fashion. The co-op will be complete on the sale of the 10,000th share. After that there's no more shares, and thereafter all the proceeds from the activity of the co-op belongs to its members in proportion to their shareholding, and that will just continue. This gives that membership, that final membership base, a phenomenal asset that can work and grow far into the future. Now you may recall from earlier parts of the explanation of this model that the main project must also provide an income source, some kind of business operation, to help the low-income owners from the subsidized section of the development to continue earning income. So it's not only about providing the accommodation and the housing, it's about enabling them to earn income by something generated and produced by the co-op itself, by the entity itself. So in this property co-op there is an element of it which services that need, the subsidizing of the low-income owners. So let's go back to the main project. We make the project, we do the property sales, and some of those property sales include subsidizing the owners in the main project. Now, how do we do that? This property cooperative now has issued shares, and all of those subsidized owners now get free entry into the property cooperative to earn income as marketers within the co-op, because there's income can be generated there by way of commissions. So let us go back. Part of the main project is reserved for low income sales. The owners of those sections get a free entry as marketer members in the property cooperatives, and it will provide them with an opt-in opportunity to develop business income for themselves through the co-op at no cost to themselves. So marketer income is based on three things. First of all, annual subscriptions. Marketers receive a commission for each newly subscribed member and each annual renewal. So if one of those low income owners does marketing in his own time, in his own right, and attracts people to the co-op who will become members and will buy shares, then that person will get paid commissions for doing that. And each time that new member renews their subscription on an annual basis, then another commission will generate to that person. So it's not just a once-off thing, it's a continuing thing. Second one is shares. Now, the marketers receive a commission on the first share purchased by any of the subscribed members. So when that low income owner makes a subscription, he gets paid a subscription bonus. When that subscriber renews the following year, gets paid a renewal bonus. And when that new member acquires their first share in the property fund, then that low income member will receive another commission on the share. Commissions only apply on the first share purchased. Those are direct kind of incomes that come from the work that they do. There's a third one, which is leverage. And leverage income is very important because this is based on performance. It's performance-based income in accordance with the national compensation plan of the property co-op. That's administered locally, and that administration will be done by some designated qualified directors within the co-op itself. The compensation plan, it must be a national thing, because when the property co-ops are derived from the main projects, those can spring up all over the country, projects all over the country, and each of the co-ops, property co-ops, have got 10,000 members. So when that 10,000 shareholding is sold, then a new property co-op will come, and it's important that each of those are adequately administered by a national body, which would be a secondary co-op, and as it grew and grew and grew, it would grow into a tertiary co-op, administering to different levels of cooperatives. So the concept of cooperative business being available to all members of the local community flows throughout this whole model from beginning to end. So let us look at put some money on the value of subscriptions and shares. The property co-op has a one-time registration fee, so one-time payment at the beginning, 250 rands, and then there'll be an annual subscription of 250 rands. So first year total is 500 rands, and thereafter it's 250 rands a year. The override on that is that the subsidized owners from the main project enter free of charge. When marketers do subscriptions, then they will earn commission on these subscriptions, and that will come from the 250 rands registration fee. There's no commissions payable on the subscription of the subsidized owners. That's totally free of charge. Now we've got the shares. When each of those members, each member buys their first share, The cost of the first share is 4,750 rands, and as commissions will be paid to the subscribing member when each new person receives that first share. Subsequent shares are 3,500 rands each. Now the maximum number of shares that may be purchased at the outset from any person is 3. It's restricted to 3. But the maximum number of shares that can be acquired by a member doesn't actually have a limit. And this is an incentive for people to work. They can go out there and work hard, they can work fast, they can become very proficient in marketing, and they can acquire many shares because those additional shares are acquired by the conversion of their commissions into shareholding. So acquisition of additional shares over 3 is by earned shares coming from marketing performance, increasing the property fund via subscriptions and the purchase of the first share of each newly subscribed member. And those commissions, again, as I stated before, they must be in accordance with a national compensation plan, because many small cooperatives, property co-ops, would develop throughout the country, growing from the different main projects that arise. So where will this lead? It will lead to generational wealth. The property cooperative is designed over a long period of time to create generational wealth. Generational wealth is that which passes on to future generations. It's not about wages, salaries, profits. It's about the creation of wealth that will pass on from one generation to another. And it's something that's completely missing in everything else that happens in this industry at the moment. It flows from long-term investments, and historically it's been the reserve of a very few people. So generational wealth has never been for the masses. It's been for a very few people. The property cooperative enables all its members to begin the process of creating generational wealth, for maybe not for themselves but for their children, for their grandchildren, by working their own lifetime activity. So something they do on a daily basis for their own income, for their own profits, for the building of their own asset base, is going to continue after their death, and those assets will be retained by their families. Now the retained asset from the main project flows to the member-owned cooperatives, and this is a truly transformational process. There is nothing at the moment, anything similar to this in South Africa today. The retained asset from the main project flowing to a member-owned cooperative where it can be worked at and grown and grown. There's nothing else that exists like this. This is a huge thing, but the integration of these small mentoring teams at the local municipality level is very minimal. It's a small operation, but it could be the single most effective change in terms of its results. Now, to highlight and give you a lot more detail about the operations of a property cooperative, we developed a website, and the website www.btp.com, and it shows the comprehensive details of an operational property cooperative for integration into a pilot project. And that's been established already, and you can study it at that website, www.btpcoop.com. So now we're coming to the conclusion of this 4-part explanation. Part 4 showed us the transformational aspects of the model, which is what the whole thing is really about. Its difference is what makes it unique. Its design is what guarantees the success. Its adoption is what makes it available, the adoption by the government. Its implementation is what will give it the results, and its results are what will make the legacy for the future generations. So thank you for studying the detail of this proposed intervention. I know it's been quite a long time, that if you see future as it was envisioned by those people who wrote the constitution of this country, then join us and work at your local authority and community levels to obtaining supports for the adoption of this program at your local authority. You can contact me directly, john@btpcorp.com, and I will send you an endorsement form, which is an application for adoption, and we will present this through the correct channels in due course as we get a build-up of endorsements. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.